sub-regionalization in European Union functions so very well because every country's border areas, deal with each other, Bavaria with Austria and so on, because they have more in common, they can trade more. And here, if the idea was that the two Punjabs, later on, for some time, I think the hype actually functioned, and with the Bengal, certain West Bengal and East Pakistan, and Tamil Nadu with Sri Lanka, despite all the experience that one has had. If that was the idea, that might have worked very well ultimately to bring the region together. Not that I know any other model that in this particular environment would have worked, but that had the best chance. So the question to you would be, sir, that would you like to examine it or would you like to comment on it? And especially, how come that emanating from Delhi, an idea just lost its, people lost track of it and hardly anyone talked about it, even though it was not only a good idea, a workable idea, but something that has already functioned somewhere. Thank you.
Just a very brief question, although I think the answer is going to be somewhat a long one. I'd like to know from you as to exactly how do you think that India is going to steer its relations with the US and China and other major powers in the coming decades?
First, David Saab, what you had mentioned. I think you were talking about
the issue and whether it was specific to the possible
GG. I was very surprised at that question actually, because it could basically be the timing. I can almost assure you that, and I can tell you tomorrow that I'm happy to send a professor or students to you if you wish. And there is no doubt about it, there is no restriction to it. When we started this program, sir, 2.5, 3 years ago, and like I said, when I went to Mr. Menon, and he was very excited. Subsequently, in another meeting, I raised it at very high levels in the government of India. And there's never been an iota of discouragement. And I was telling Ajay on the way that in the last week, on 2 separate occasions, I had occasion of, again, at lunch meeting, Shiv Shankar. And every time he said, "Bhai, wo kuch log aaye ke nahi aaye? How many have you sent?" So on and so forth. So there is, to my mind, it could be, of course, post-Bombay, immediately within 4 or 5 months, people may have hesitated. It could also be that the agency with which you were talking of had their own hesitations. I can't say. But insofar as, say, a serious Pakistan studies program is involved, and I'm sorry to say that we don't have many. Perhaps the Jamia Millia Islamia is the only university that is studying Pakistan in all seriousness, the question you said, sir. That this presumption, आपने कहा कि, पाकिस्तान के बारे में क्या पढ़ना है, we know them so well. फिर किसी ने कहा कि साहब हिंदुस्तान के बारे में क्या जरूरत है, वो तो यहीं आते हैं, वही जबान है, वही खाना है, वगैरह वगैरह वगैरह, वही गजल. The Kuldeep Nayyar theory, sir. This is what we have been feeling from and including Mr. Gujarat, that there is this section of Indians, actually came from Pakistan into India, and this great big nostalgia with Pakistan, and this intrinsic desire to be friends with Pakistan. We want to go back to our mohalla, we want to meet our people, we have the same language. But their presumption is that they understand Pakistan. They don't understand that in 65 years, Pakistan has moved on. You have evolved as an independent, great nation amongst a polity of nations. You are a nuclear power, you have your independent foreign policy, so you have issues with India. And those issues go beyond just a similarity of Punjabi language and a nostalgia of home, And so today I think that where government of India is coming from is that you would not have that hesitation. I can send you a person tomorrow. If, say, your institute says that please send so and so, I would not even have to inform the government of India. I may send a routine letter, like I am a central university. So coming here, I have not sought anybody's permission, but I did send a letter, both to my ministry, which is the Human Resources Development Ministry, and to the Ministry of External Affairs, that for your information, I'm going as part of the distinguished speakers, and that Shashi and Mani have gone before me. It was not for seeking permission, it was not even, it was just an intimation which, being a central government university, I thought I'd inform them. And that is exactly what we will do. We have issues, आपने सर ये जो climate change की बात की, we have the same concerns. The problem, I think, with us as Hindustani middle class is that I don't care about my tomorrow. It is, and that is where we are different from Europeans. That I'm having a good time today, and I have my house and I have my bijli, and tomorrow will take care of itself. So, and this is exactly how my politician also is trained. So if you start, he would much rather debate on something else in Parliament. In fact, please understand the difficulty we are having while we elect parliaments without a problem. Parliamentarians without a problem. Election hota hai, chunav hota hai, aadmi chun ke aata hai. But Parliament ke andar uska kya contribution hota hai? That is the thing that we need to think about. And that's a constant challenge, because what has happened, sir, is that election is a very expensive exercise. To win an election is expensive. To re-win is almost impossible. So all your 5 years are going in making this calculation, can I come back? So I don't want to waste my time in discussing esoteric issues. My time is going to, doing work for my constituents. गलत बिजली का कनेक्शन दिला दो, छोटी सी सड़क कहीं बन जाए. So I'm sure your politicians are faced with these similar problems. Even the English politicians are faced with similar problems, and that is why the quality of policy making is declining. And I'll take you one step further. Bureaucrats in no country can make good policy. We are not trained, we may think that we are policy makers, but the civil servant does not have the courage to make policy. The civil servant can be led and he can implement. But if you are asking great original ideas, then that's not going to happen. That's not my training. The politician is courageous and therefore he comes up with better ideas, but he's not interested in it anymore. So, you've heard of Pachori and this and that, and in every debate, Pachori would raise the green flag. But it's not happening. And it's of deep concern to us. Indo-Pak is a big thing. We have arguments between states in India. There is water flowing from Tamil Nadu into Karnataka, and I have a problem. It's such a big problem that state governments are arguing with each other that, so many cusecs of water, if released from this dam which is in my state, then you get so much water, but what about my Kisan? Delhi has this satellite town, Gurgaon, which is, great big modern city. बहुत लाइटें हो गई हैं, multi-story building हो गई हैं, गाड़ियाँ हैं, all the pubs and the young and so on. But there is a water problem, because the water will flow from Punjab into Haryana. And just 20 years ago they were one state, but today they are two states. And so to deprive or deny the Punjabi Kisan from letting his water come into Haryana is an issue. And here is a city which is a great big satellite town. So governments are struggling. And I don't know. People say that the Fourth World War will come with on the water issue, because salinate करने की cost बहुत ज़्यादा है. इसको desalinate करने की cost बहुत ज़्यादा है. आप समुद्र से पानी लाइए. We have a country which is 3 sides with ocean, but will we have the monies for that? So even a city like Bombay is now, if there are less rains, then Bombay has a problem, and of course Delhi has a problem. You go to Bhopal, which which is the state capital of Madhya Pradesh, and you will get water once for a couple of hours every morning. People are trained. People are trained in the morning, they get up at 5 o'clock and apna pump chalu kar dete hain, money comes. But it's not fair. And it's time the governments applied themselves into harnessing river resources, and we are not doing that adequately. Sir, आपने हमारी presence, the Indian presence you mentioned, and the lack of success of SARC and so on. Most Indians feel that that India could have behaved better with neighbors. We have good neighbor relations. Nepal is a Hindu country more or less. There are no visa restrictions, but Nepal is afraid of India, and it could only be because some signals must be going from here to we are the elder brother. Now, what is the solution? Do I have a solution? I don't. That's not my domain. All I do know is that Indo-Pak relations will only improve much more if you take this out of the politician's domain. This 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, we will not go ahead. That is why I am talking of a movement. Let's have movements. हमारे बच्चे आपके यहाँ आए, आपके बच्चे हमारे यहाँ जाएं, टीचर जाएं, आपके बिजनेसमैन हमारे यहाँ आना शुरू करें किसी तरह से. This MFL status that you are giving India now, इसको किसी तरह से अगर आप प्रेशर करके इसको चालू कर सकें. For instance, petroleum products, a pipeline bringing petroleum products from the Punjab, our Punjab into your Punjab. Some of your Sikh industries, if they are bought over by Indians. If you want to come and invest in steel in Punjab, in our Punjab, exports, imports, so many things. Pan हमारे यहाँ से आपके यहाँ आए, sugar आए, jute आए. Businessmen teach countries to handle relations, because when their stakes are up so much, then it's the businessmen which feed the politician also. वही आदमी है जो political parties को fund करते हैं. वही है जो हमको रास्ता दिखा सकते हैं कई चीजों में. Your press does such a fantastic job, sir. We in India are great admirers of the Pakistani press, I must say. In fact, many of us feel how courageous your press is to be writing, because वहाँ तो बात होता ना कि आपकी आर्मी है, आपकी ऐसा. हिंदुस्तान में तो वो सब नहीं. So you write so much about your government, but why doesn't anything happen? They don't care. But if the businessman were to start tightening screws, because their interest would develop, things would happen more quickly. At least I believe so. That is how things happen in Maharashtra, like that happened in Gujarat and Bombay and so on. So I really don't think, sir, that with this thing happening of Government of India trying Track-II, Track-III, and people coming and going and midnight vigil things, much things are going to happen. War nahi hogi, aapki nahi hogi, war to theek hai. But when will visas open? When will we come freely? It's so critical for us. And it must happen in our lifetime, otherwise you and I will, kick the bucket not many years ahead. So it should happen in our lifetimes, if it is to happen. The Gujarat doctrine, sir. Gujarat Sahib comes from the same stock as Kuldeep Nayyar and Dalinder Sachar. And they love Pakistan. And Gujarat Sahib became Prime Minister of India at a time when he had no political base. He was an aberration in the system. So Gujarat didn't have a political party. The period between 91 and 99 was a strange time in politics. It was a very strange time. Narsimha Rao went away in 94, 95. Uske baad wo jo 4-5 saal the when we had 4 or 5 governments. Gujarat was part of that. You had, Deva Gowda for a few months, you had Gujarat for a few months, you had Chandrasekhar for a few months. Gujarat Sahib didn't even have 2 MPs with him, I think. So he was representing himself. And he became MP in those days. If you read his own biography, which is out in the market, you will read how that it was, Lalu Prasad and everybody combining to help him become Prime Minister. So it was just fortuitous. So however much he may write, he was never a political force. The same thing in '84, had it been propagated somebody like Rajiv, when you had Benazir Bhutto here, it could have worked. I don't know. Now, sir, on our relations with US and China, you know, there has become some kind of a natural affinity between India and the US. And it's just not that energy deal. It's something more. It is also the Indian diaspora that has gone to the US. What has happened is that the best of Indians have gone to the US. People qualifying from the IITs, from the Indian Institutes of Management, and they are occupying, it's much like the Jews. They are occupying very, very good positions in the American financial markets. So the Indian diaspora ensures, and that's what's coming from to the business aspect, that the Indian diaspora ensures now that Indo-US relations will not be what they were in 1971, when Mrs. Gandhi said, you know, that we will be relations with Russia forever and ever and ever. Today there is so much happening in the lives of people between US and India. Anyone who falls sick now, you know, gets a visa and goes to America for treatment. There's also so much money flowing around and so much of exchange of imports and exports between India and the US. So they are actually comrades in arms in many ways. But China is a different kettle of fish. I don't think that either India or China trust each other. And China is constantly stepping on Indian toes in Arunachal Pradesh, on the Kashmir side. You know, it is strange, and there are Chinese teaching schools that have come up in parts of Kashmir. Wouldn't you find it strange that China should start teaching Chinese in parts of Kashmir? So it makes you wonder. And Arunachali traveling to China, they will not accept the Indian passport. So they will say, "Can you tum to Chinese ho, or hamara passport, hamara visa chalega." Otherwise, so India has raised that time and again. Arunachal is very much part of India in the sense that, you know, there's a governor there, there's a civil service there, there's a DC there, there's an SP there. But the Chinese constantly raise Arunachal. So China remains an enigma on their behavior with India. It's unpredictable. And it's a very mighty economic and military power. And I think China is an enigma internationally, that how they would behave with whom, many people don't know. Have I touched most things, sir? Sir, aap kuch keh rahe hain?
Zafar Jaswal, and then, well, Mohibul Dada seems to have left. Then Zima Cheema.
Okay.
And my colleague Salman.
Thank you very much, Ijaz. Professor Jung, you have given us a very optimistic, to some extent implementable roadmap when you were talking about suggesting with the academics, because I was personally engaged for 2.5 years with your own university's institute, Nelson Mandela, for writing MAP's programs, and where we developed a number of times consensus on the syllabi. And in that case, in which especially I was writing nuclear weaponization of South Asian arms control, and it was very much accepted. But there were two incidents which still, they were very important. One, in 2010 when we met, the same institute which deals with Pakistan affairs, it was headed by former Indian ambassador in France, he just returned. When he started discussing or participating, he was still lost in the old history. So that was the first thing which I learned, that within the Jamia, that kind of mindset was still prevalent. Second, last year in the final meeting when we were there, they gave me police reporting on your university invitation, and for one day I was just visiting from your university, going to the Chandni Chowk, searching that place, and luckily I had a student of the university with me. So the point here is not this, that the thinking is not possible or these projects are not possible. They are very much possible. But there's also need that we have to look at two levels. One, our past, retired, dying, you can say, intellectuals, intelligentsia, and among them, how they narrate the history. And secondly, at our college and school level, what is the syllabi we are teaching and what are the textbooks we are teaching? So if we can make a combination of these two, then I think we are able to move ahead. Because here I found in this Nelson Mandela project or this Dublin University, at the university level consensus is easier. But neither we are able to convince that leadership and nor we are able to train lower level. What is your take on this?